Camping alone in the woods really changes how sound travels at night. Everything seems closer, louder, more aware. Last October, my friend Jake and I went camping in the Cascade Mountains, 3 days deep into the backcountry. We were supposed to stay for 3 nights, but we only made it through 2. On the 3rd night, something found our camp. Something that whistled. Jake and I are experienced hikers. We follow all the rules. Hang your food, make noise to keep animals away, and camp in safe, designated spots. The first day was perfect. We found a beautiful clearing near a stream, set up our tents, cooked dinner, and watched the stars come out. The forest was alive with all the normal sounds: owls hooting, wind in the trees, the distant rush of water. That night, everything was peaceful. Nothing happened. The second night was different. Around midnight, I heard the zipper on Jake's tent. He whispered, "Hey, you hear that?" I held my breath and listened. And then it came, whistling. It wasn't birds, and it definitely wasn't the wind. It sounded human, melodic, deliberate. "It's probably just another camper," I said, trying to sound confident, but we both knew that made no sense. We were miles from the nearest trail, and had a permit that guaranteed we were the only ones in this area. The whistling went on for about 30 seconds, then it just stopped. We tried to get back to sleep, but the silence felt heavier than before. The next morning, we checked the area, but there was nothing unusual, no footprints, no signs of anyone being there. Over breakfast, Jake brought it up again. "That whistling. Do you think it could have been a person?" I just shrugged. Who hikes alone out here at midnight, just whistling? We both felt uneasy, so we decided to pack up early and start the long hike back to the car. We were about 12 miles from safety when the forest went eerily quiet. No birds chirping, no squirrels rustling in the leaves, no deer, just ... silence. Around 2 in the afternoon, Jake pointed at something. Carved into the bark of a tree were tally marks. 4 vertical lines with 1 diagonal line crossing them out. A set of 5. Then we saw another set on a different tree, and another. We found 12 sets in total. 60 marks. As we looked around, we realized more trees had them, dozens, maybe even hundreds of marks. Someone, or something, had been out here for a long time. Counting. "We need to go. Now," Jake said, his voice tight. We started moving fast, practically jogging down the trail. And that's when the whistling returned. This time it was following us. Every time we stopped to catch our breath, the whistling would stop. The moment we started moving again, it would start up, always sounding a little closer than before. By evening, it was clear we weren't going to make it back before dark. Exhausted, we set up a small, cold camp just off the trail. We didn't dare make a fire. As total darkness fell, the forest closed in around us. Around 8 o'clock, the whistling started again. It was close. So close it sounded like it was circling our tents. Jake whispered from his tent, "Is it? Is it walking around us?" "Don't move," I whispered back, my heart pounding in my chest. Then the whistling stopped right between our 2 tents. Silence. Then we heard sniffing. Long, deep breaths, like a large animal. But the whistling had been so human. A distorted, raspy voice spoke. "I can smell you. I've been counting. Do you want to know how many?" Neither of us dared to answer. The voice continued, 63, all alone in my woods. All lost. All mine now. The whistling started up again, moving away, fading back into the trees until it was gone. We didn't sleep a wink that night. At the first sign of light, we ran. We covered the last 6 miles in under 3 hours, not stopping for anything. When we finally stumbled into the parking lot, the park ranger was there, waiting by his truck. We told him everything that had happened. His face went pale. "You heard the whistler," he said, his voice low. "Most people who hear it don't make it out. It's been 4 months since that trip. Jake refuses to go hiking anymore. I still hear that whistling in my sleep sometimes. And I think about those tally marks. 63 sets. That's 315 marks. 315 lost hikers. We were almost 316 and 317. So if you're ever out in the woods and you hear whistling in the dark, don't stop. Don't look back. Just run. If you've ever camped deep in the forest, you know the woods are alive at night. Every sound carries. Every shadow moves differently. Last September, I went camping alone in the White Mountains. My plan was simple. 2 nights, some solitude, and a bit of photography. Everything seemed peaceful. Until the first night. I set up my tent near a small, gurgling creek, surrounded by towering pines. As the sun dipped below the horizon, the forest darkened, and the only sounds were the crunch of my own footsteps, and the gentle flow of the water. I built a small fire, its warm glow pushing back the encroaching shadows, and settled in for the night. Around midnight, that's when I heard it for the first time. A voice. It was soft, almost a whisper, and it was calling my name. "Hello." I called out, my voice sounding small in the vast quiet. The only reply was silence. Then it came again. Just as soft. "Hello." I froze. My heart hammered against my ribs. I grabbed my flashlight, its powerful beam cutting through the darkness as I scanned the area around my camp. There was nothing. No people, no animals. Just the ancient trees, swaying gently in the night breeze. I tried to rationalize it, telling myself it was just my imagination playing tricks on me. The wind whistling through the pines, maybe. I crawled into my tent and tried to sleep, but the voice returned like clockwork every hour. It was never close, but never far either, just there, a constant presence that made me feel watched. The next day, I tried to shake off the unsettling feeling from the night before. I spent the day exploring the forest, hiking the trails. Everything looked completely normal. Birds chirped, squirrels scurried across branches, and the usual forest sounds filled the air. I convinced myself I'd overreacted. But as night began to fall again, a knot of anxiety tightened in my stomach. I was lying in my tent, trying to read by the light of my headlamp, when I heard a new sound, a soft tapping on the tent fabric. It was slow and deliberate. Tap, tap, tap. I held my breath, listening. The tapping stopped. My fire had died down to embers, so I unzipped the tent to go check on it. And that's when I noticed them. My own footprints in the dirt, leading away from my campsite. But then, there was another set of footprints following mine. They weren't human. They were larger, unevenly spaced. The horrifying part was, they stopped right where I had stopped. I stood there frozen, my mind racing. I couldn't see anyone, but I knew I wasn't alone. I tried calling out, but my voice echoed back strangely, almost as if someone or something was mimicking me. Tap, 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 it started again, louder this time. The air felt heavier, thicker, like the forest itself was leaning in, pressing down on me. I scrambled back into my tent, zipped it shut as tight as it would go, and sat on my sleeping bag, my heart pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. And then, the whisper came again, right beside the tent. Don't leave. I didn't sleep a wink that night. I was too terrified to move. Every so often, I'd peek through a small gap in the zipper. I saw shadows moving between the trees, but there was no light source, no figure casting them. They were just shapes, stretching and twisting in unnatural ways. Every time I blinked, they seemed to be closer. I pulled out my phone and, with trembling hands, started recording audio. When I played it back, my blood ran cold. The recording was filled with whispers, faint murmurs, and the sound of soft footsteps circling the tent. There were voices, speaking in a language I didn't recognize, and some were repeating my own words back to me in a distorted, mocking tone. Then the tapping turned into scratching, all over the tent, across the support poles. I could feel the pressure against the fabric, as if something small and fast was scurrying everywhere at once. I stayed completely still, realizing with dawning horror that it wasn't trying to hurt me. It was observing me, learning, mimicking. As the first light of dawn filtered through the trees, the forest went completely silent. The whispers, the tapping, the scratching, it all stopped. All I could hear was the creak in the wind. I packed my gear faster than I ever have in my life and practically ran back to my car. As I drove away, I looked back one last time. For a moment, it seemed like the shadows at the edge of the woods were retreating with me. I don't know what was following me that night. I don't know if it was one entity, or many. But I know this, the forest has a memory. It watches. It remembers the footsteps of those who wander too far into its depths. And sometimes, it calls your name. I never went camping alone in the White Mountains again. Thanks for listening. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Stay safe out there.